So I was on vacation with Sam one time, Samuel Jackson. We was in Portofino, we had finished dinner one time. We walking back to go get on this boat.
2024 may be the year Steve Harvey may lose all of the accolades he has gathered in the comedy industry over the past 3 decades. While 2024 started with Katt Williams accusing Steve Harvey of not being who he always claimed to be, Harvey's situation has worsened as another hotshot in Hollywood supports Katt's claims concerning him. The hotshot, who happens to have also been in the sacred industry since the 70s, is no other than Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel exposes Steve Harvey for his allegedly dubious road to fame in Hollywood. I bet you're itching to know all about Steve's cunny road to stardom. Well, let's get right into it. Everyone knows it's been a while since Steve Harvey branded himself as the king of comedy. But is he really the king of comedy? Several unsettling claims have been aimed at Steve's career over the years, most of which always claimed Steve isn't an original comedian, as he barely has the materials to use during his performances. Back in January, when Katt Williams was invited to the Club Shay Shay podcast, Katt really didn't seem to care about whatever the consequences of him spilling so many dirty Hollywood secrets could be. Katt went on and on about the movers and shakers of the Hollywood scene, and how they have been involved in some of the most shocking atrocities behind the curtains. While Katt listed several celebrities, he didn't make the mistake of not mentioning one of his arch enemies, Steve Harvey. Katt revealed that Steve is one of the most undeserving comedians in the industry, as he claims Steve was always going around different comedians' shows back in the day just to steal their jokes. Katt labeled Steve a joke thief. But that isn't even half of the story. Katt told Shannon during the interview that Steve always cooked up lies to his audience, even if it meant him creating a false scenario. Katt exposed Steve for his infamous story about being so broke that he had to turn his car into an accommodation because he couldn't afford an apartment.
When I was homeless, I was good.
Right.
And I told him, I said, hey God, I'm good, I got it. I don't know what you're trying to tell me, but trust me.
Katt claimed that particular story was one of the reasons that made Steve famous, alongside stealing other comedians' jokes. The story often told by Steve to his audience over and over again got him sympathy and more people wanting to be his fans, as he was such a big inspiration to struggling individuals. Interestingly, Katt also reignited the feud between Steve Harvey and the late Bernie Mac. Katt said on the podcast that Steve was quite jealous of Bernie during the original Kings of Comedy run. The famous American stand-up comedy film Spike Lee directed featured Bernie Mac, Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer, and D.L. Hughley. The 4 comedians had different roles, but had the same goal: to make people laugh. However, Steve wasn't feeling his role, as he had been allegedly accused multiple times of being jealous of Bernie, because Bernie was the type to turn a room filled up with people upside down while making them laugh their sorrows away, which gave him a better edge to the viewers and took the most recognition in the film, unfortunately. Steve couldn't do the same. Bernie even told GQ magazine in 2003 that Steve was jealous of him because he seemed to have stolen the spotlight in the show. Steve had also allegedly said behind the scenes that he deserved more fame than Bernie. You may think the jealousy part is all that is attached to the Bernie and Steve feud, but you are wrong. Steve was also accused of allegedly stealing a couple of Bernie's materials and performing them to his audience as his material. Oops. Steve must have been in a haste to make millions of dollars. Unfortunately, the feud couldn't go as long as people had thought it would, due to Bernie's sad passing in 2008. Bernie, who had suffered from a disease called sarcoidosis, later died from unexpected complications of the disease. He was survived by his daughter and wife. 2 years after Bernie's death, Steve revealed in an interview that Bernie's statement to GQ in 2003 hurt him really badly because of their relationship from the past. Still, no one seemed to care about Steve's feelings then. Fast forward to Samuel L. Jackson's involvement in the Bernie and Steve twist, which comes through Samuel's unwavering loyalty to Bernie. The duo, who had met as far back as the early 90s, after Bernie performed at Samuel's golf tournament in Bermuda, maintained a very close relationship until Bernie's last breath. The duo even worked on a blockbuster movie titled Soul Men. Samuel wasn't cool with Steve trying to claim his late friend's material was evidently his, which may lead to the actor spilling some of Steve's dirty secrets he used in securing a spot in the industry soon. Samuel is not one of the actors who owe anything in his career to Steve. He doesn't even like to get caught up in the news with Steve. Sometime back, a picture of the Jackson and Harvey families once went viral on social media, which made people believe Samuel had switched sides after Bernie's death, but the actor cleared the rumor real quick. Samuel isn't much of a social media user, but he got the opportunity to clear the air about the picture when he went on an episode of The Ellen DeGeneres Show after being questioned about it. The photo, which had featured Samuel, his wife, Steve Harvey, his wife, and also another family at a yacht dock, was put up on the screen as Ellen asked Samuel if the families had planned the getaway trip together. But he didn't hesitate to tell Ellen that it was just a coincidence, because the three families being at the dock at that moment wasn't planned. While Samuel had dashed the hopes of people expecting his family to be close to that of Steve's, he definitely made the likes of Katt Williams and Bernie's fans happy for not switching sides on his late friend.
Harvey, I hear y'all take vacations together on the yacht or something.
Well, we get on the boat with Magic and Cookie. Steve and Marjorie have their own boat.
Steve being accused of being an unrepentant sinner for stealing other comedians' materials isn't finished yet. Another veteran comedian, Mark Curry, who has been around for a while, but seems to be done with the comedy industry, once exposed Steve in an interview for stealing his materials. Mark also claims Steve did not even steal just one of the materials, as he repeated his alleged embarrassing behavior. Steve wasn't ready to let this particular allegation fly, so he replied to Curry, saying he hadn't stolen anyone's joke, as they always claimed in the 35 years of his career.
His daytime talk gig. Dupe's practically a household name by now, but here's the plot twist. Not everyone's hopping on the Steve Harvey hype train. Guess who's not feeling the love? Yeah.
Curry refreshed Steve's memory because he seemed to have forgotten as he told him he stole a joke from him related to Halloween material. The allegation hit Steve hard, maybe because he didn't expect Curry to have receipts for the materials he was discussing. Well, Steve played the smarter game and didn't reply to Curry's accusations anymore. Still, fans can't help but wonder why he denied it at first, if he wasn't going to be able to do that till the end.
You mean to tell me if Steve Harvey, your favorite comedian, you mean you've been waiting for him to do stand-up for 15 years?
This was one of the things Katt Williams had talked about on the Club Shay Shay podcast. Katt claims Steve had been building his career over lies for decades and will never stop. Katt even talked about Steve also sugarcoating that he owed a part of his success to his present wife, and he's always trying to appreciate her for that. But it isn't true, because he said the same thing about his former wife also. Oh well, Steve owing a significant part of his success in the industry to his former wife is, in fact, a valid claim. The claim is valid, because back in the 90s, when Steve was still a struggling comedian and trying to find his feet in the industry, his former wife, Mary Harvey, fought tooth and nail to make him succeed. Mary did not only drop her life savings worth about $250,000, but she also went hard for Steve, as she helped him set up his comedy club, which later turned out to be a success, and put Steve on the right path. But what did Mary get in return for this? An empty bank account and a terrible heartbreak. Steve started making big bucks through the channel Mary had set up, and felt it was the right time for him to cheat on her with several women, one of whom is his current wife, Marjorie Harvey. Unfortunately, in addition to Mary being divorced by Steve after losing all her money, she also lost custody of the one child she had shared with Steve. It was such a terrible moment in Mary's life, and it seems she has yet to recover from it. Mary even thought she would be getting back her son, Wynton Harvey, after she had reported Steve for domestically abusing him when Steve hit their son about a situation relating to his education. TMZ revealed that an investigation carried out to find Steve guilty was later dropped because there was evidence that he meant no harm to Wynton, which made all of Mary's efforts futile. Mary had neither enough money to afford other lawsuits nor to set up her business again. At the same time, Steve moved on with the title of a family man, adopting all of Marjorie's kids alongside his children from his previous marriages. So at the end of it all, it is safe to accept that Katt's claims of Steve not being a good and righteous man, just concerned about his family and career, are all lies. However, Steve seemed to have worsened the situation between him and Katt after Jamie Foxx pitted the two comedians together during a show. Steve was included through a phone call where he could be heard dismissing Katt. Steve said on the phone that he didn't know anything about Katt Williams. But how is this even possible when these two comedians were part of the frontliners of the most sought-after comedians in the early 2000s?
We've been cool with Katt. He said in an interview that back in LA when I didn't know who he was, I mean, I understand that I didn't know who he was when I was on the radio in LA. He hadn't been in any movies or anything.
This made Katt continue to throw shade at Steve on the podcast. Katt included that Steve had always bragged about not wanting to be a movie star, so he didn't come up to be one. Katt messed up Steve's ego as he revealed Steve wanted to be a movie star so badly, but he couldn't because he didn't possess the talent to be one. And that was part of the reason he was jealous of Bernie. Bernie was one of the comedians who shined brightly as both a comedian and a movie star, but Steve couldn't pull off the same thing. Katt said no one in Hollywood was willing to offer Steve any script to succeed in his acting career, and that was why he stuck to his Family Feud hosting and his other TV shows that brought him money. So Steve Harvey's rise to fame was as tough as the rest of his peers, but he didn't come out on top fairly, as he unjustly took what wasn't his to make a name for himself. At least he succeeded in making the name. Could all of Katt Williams' claims about Steve Harvey's crooked way to success be true, as the comedian mentioned? Or did Steve succeed purely and isn't guilty of the claims Katt has talked about? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any celebrity news updates.